Hi, I'm Mark. This is Mark's Tech Vlogs on YouTube, and today I'm going to bring you guys a review of the Neakasa M1 robot litter box. Now at the start of this video, I want to tell you guys this is an item I purchased for myself. I have absolutely no affiliation with Neakasa other than personally signing up for their affiliate program, so I can offer you a link and a discount below. Now, having purchased this with my own money, this seems to make me pretty unique amongst the other reviews on YouTube, and so hopefully what you're going to get with this is an honest review from someone who's genuinely spent the money on this product. And in fact, the only really in-depth review I could find on YouTube before purchasing it came from One Man 5 Cats, and that review was really good and really helped me in making a decision. So in this video, I'm going to try and go into as much depth as possible and help you guys decide if this is the right litter tray for you. And a big reason for that is because of the price. And actually in the UK, this thing costs around £500. And that means this is a big investment. Now, it's certainly not as expensive as a Little Robot 4, but it is still pretty expensive. Now, I'll put links below for Amazon and also the Neakasa official website, and those links will go to whichever country you're in. If you're a UK user, there's only really two options for purchasing this at the moment. That's via Amazon, but also via AliExpress. Now, I'll talk more about the AliExpress options later on, but I will also put a link to that below as well for you. So this is going to be a long review, so buckle up and let's get stuck in. I'm going to give you one final warning before I talk about using this and setting it up and all that kind of stuff. And that is that there is going to be some video of poop and pee in this video. From the cats, not me. But if that's not what you want to see, maybe this isn't the video for you. But if you're watching this video, you probably own cats anyway, so you probably see plenty of it. And let's get into this review properly by giving a proper overview of the Neakasa M1. Now, this is one of only a few fully automated litter boxes out there. Most of the others on the market have closed tops and quite often small holes for your cats to get into. Now, Little Robot 4 is pretty close to being open because it does have such a big entrance. And it was actually the other one I considered when I was looking at these. And I found myself looking for fully open ones because one of my cats does not like using enclosed litter trays. That means this was the only option for me, really. The other one you'll find if you search around a lot is the Popa. Now, this one has a sort of accordion design and it's got really mixed reviews and it's very difficult to get hold of at the moment as well. All of this led me to picking up the Neakasa M1, and this is a fully open automated litter box. And this basically detects when your cats use it, and then it will go through a cycle of emptying it, which means your cat will always have a clean toilet. And it works in a very similar way to a lot of other smart litter trays on the market, whereby it basically sieves out the litter, leaving only the lumps when it goes through the emptying process. This is why it works best with clumping litter. Alongside this, the Neakasa also weighs your cat while it's doing it, which helps it identify which of your cats, if you've got multiple cats, has actually just used it. It knows which cat is which because in the app you can set up pet profiles and add their weight at the same time. There's also some other smart features in the accompanying app which I will get onto as well. But before we get into the nitty gritty, let's talk about what you get in the box. So firstly, the box is massive, but you do get everything you need to get started inside it. And the M1 basically comes fully assembled apart from legs. And this thing is pretty big, and I'd say it's about 1.5 times the size of a normal litter box. And it's certainly taller, and it kind of looks like a spaceship has landed in your room. And actually, I quite like the design. And it's grey with some raised legs, and these legs come packed separately in the box, and you just simply clip them in, and it's a really simple procedure. These raised legs allow for a really deep tray underneath. And in fact, the capacity of this tray is 11.23 litres, which is massive. Now, this slides out from underneath and you get 2 rolls of drawstring bags in a box as well. It even has a little hook on this tray, which means you can pull the drawstring to easily close up a bag when it's full and ready to empty. This makes the whole emptying process nice and simple. So on the front of this device, you are going to find 5 buttons. You're going to find power, level, clean, empty and Wi-Fi. The sides of this device have 2 removable covers which let you easily lift the main body of the machine out. This is great for cleaning it. And then underneath that, on the actual body, there is a trap door. And this trap door keeps all of the smell from the waste from coming outside. And this opens automatically when it's performing an empty or cleaning cycle. Now, that grey colour does mean it collects a bit more dust than perhaps a white one would. But actually, I do really like the colour, and personally it fits better in my house, and I just think it looks nicer. In the box you also get an easy to empty litter mat which collects stray litter. And then you get 2 rolls of those drawstring bags, which gives you 30 in total. Now, it's worth saying you actually don't need to use the Neakasa ones with it. You can pick up any drawstring or indeed any bag you like that will fit in that container. The only thing you don't get in the box, although I believe this is going to change really soon, is the extra sealing strips, and I will talk about that more later on. But depending on your cat's peeing habit, you might not even need these. So let's talk about specification. So as you can see, this has an open design and a really nice sized litter tray. The bottom of that tray has a silicone mat, which so far seems pretty durable, even when cats kind of claw and dig at it. Of course, keeping your litter topped up is going to help protect that even more over time. That waste bin, as I said, is 11.23 litres in size, which is massive. And Neakasa say you'll get about 2 weeks usage out of it. And in using this for about 3.5, maybe 4 weeks so far, I'd say that's pretty much spot on, even with 2 cats. As I mentioned, it does have a trap door, and that keeps the smell contained when it's not doing an emptying cycle. And actually, having had 2 open trays in the room before, I have genuinely noticed a difference in lack of smell in the house. Now, there is also an app to use alongside the M1, and this allows you to do things like toggle features remotely, check for usage, and also toggle a range of other settings. And I'll talk more about that app later on. One of the things it does do is recognise cats by weight, depending on the data you put in the app. And generally it seems to be pretty good at recognising them, although I do tend to find that their weight varies between kind of 20 and 30 grams throughout the day. It is worth noting that if you have 2 cats with very similar weights, it may struggle to recognise them. It's also worth saying that a cat needs to be in it long enough to weigh, which means if your cat just hops in and hops out, you might have a phantom 1 kilogram cat. And really, that's not much difference from our own bathroom scales. You kind of step on, if you step off really quickly, it doesn't get the correct measurement. Now, the M1 does connect to your home via Wi-Fi, and it's this that gives you out-of-home access. It is worth saying, however, that you don't actually have to connect it to Wi-Fi or to the app, because it does have 5 physical buttons that perform all of the actions if you want to. But the app does give you some more settings. One of the really important things to talk about is the built-in safety features. And the M1 has 5 infrared sensors on the outside and 4 weight sensors on the inside. This means if a cat gets in or touches a box during an emptying cycle or a cleaning cycle, it will stop. It will then pick up when those sensors detect that the cat is no longer there. This is great for making sure your cat doesn't accidentally get caught up in the mechanism. And I've seen my cats poke this and it does indeed stop and wait for them to go away. It is also suitable for kittens, but it's recommended that you don't have the auto cleaning on if you've got a cat that weighs less than 1 kilogram. And that's because they might not be heavy enough to trigger the cycle. So you can still use it, but you will need to manually trigger the cleaning cycles. In terms of maximum weight, Neakasa say it's suitable for cats weighing up to 14 kilograms. And then the app also gives you a litter level monitoring. And as long as you calibrate it once you've filled it up with litter initially, it will tell you pretty accurately how much litter is left in a percentage. Once you've done that initial calibration, when you top it up subsequently, it knows that you've topped it up and updates the percentage accordingly. Of course, this is based on the weight that's going on. And it's also calibrating this that will help you get accurate readings for your cat when they're in the litter box. And then when it comes to kind of operating sound, it's actually pretty quiet. This is great for not spooking your cats. It's also great if you want to keep it running throughout the night as well. Although it is worth mentioning that if you have it close to where you're sleeping, the app does support a do not disturb mode where you can set the hours it won't run during. If you want a kind of official sound level, Neakasa say it is 50 decibels. And then finally, as I said, you can remove the 2 side covers and lift out the actual tray itself. The box also has an empty feature, so prior to doing that and cleaning it, you can run the empty function in order to take out all of the old litter and get it ready for cleaning. And because that part you can lift out has no electric parts, you can clean it thoroughly with soap and water. It's the inside part that does have the electric parts, so you're going to want to just use something like a wet wipe with, just so you don't damage the electrics. You're also going to make sure that main body is dry when you put it back in. This and its fully open design does make it nice and easy to clean though. The only other thing to note with spec is that it does only come with a 1-year warranty, which is a shame for a product like this. So let's talk about setting it up. So setting it up was pretty easy because it basically came fully assembled apart from those legs. That means for setup, you just have to pop those legs on, open a tray and push down the bottom of it and then pop in a bag. From there, you're going to want to plug it in, download the app and follow the instructions on the app to get it all paired and set up to your Wi-Fi. At that point, you're also going to add your litter in as well and calibrate it. Now, one thing to note is that when I initially created my account on the app, it did crash and then I reopened it and it let me log in fine. This was on an iPhone 15 Pro. I have since had absolutely no issues with the app at all. On the app, you can also add in your cats. That includes their weight, their sex, birthday, and even a picture. Now, I actually grabbed their weights from their latest vet's visit cards. But of course, if you don't know their weights or you think it might have fluctuated, you can wait till they've first gone in it and you've got a few readings and then adjust it accordingly in the app. In terms of litter and which litters are suitable for it, it's not suitable for loosely clumping, newspaper or wood pellets. And actually the cat's best litter, which I've been using for years, wasn't really suitable for it either because it had thicker clumps. And those clumps struggled to get through the filter. That meant it was emptying a lot of litter alongside the poo. Now what I've been using since is Amazon's lifelong bentonite clumping cat litter, and this is about £13 a bag, and that bag has 10 litres in it. And this litter has been working absolutely perfectly, and I would really recommend it for this product. And I'll link that litter below. Once it's set up and filled, you're going to want to use the leveling function either via the app or with a button on the front. This will cause it to tilt a bit just to level out all of the litter ready for use. One thing also to note is that the silicone inner has some percentage levels so you can see where you're filling it up to and make sure you don't overfill it. And of course, as I said, you're going to want to use the calibration feature to make sure it knows the weight of the litter before your cats get in it so you get accurate readings. And this is accurate readings of your cat's weight, but also how much litter is left. So let's talk about getting the cats used to it. And there's a whole load of things you can do to help your cats get used to this, especially if you are changing your litter at the same time. This includes things like actually just having a little bit of the old litter in there, having your old litter tray next to it, putting some treats near the new tray so they're encouraged to go and sniff it out. And of course just making sure it's where the old one was so they don't have to look somewhere new for the litter tray. And actually I've been pretty lucky because I put it in the same spot as the old tray and they took to it straight away. And this was despite the fact that I had to put new litter in it. Now I did try and entice them to it with Dreamies and it worked for one of them, but the other one didn't go near it with the Dreamies and just started using it. And actually since setting it up, both cats have used it all of the time and abandoned the other litter trays completely. Now personally I think that's because it's fully open and it's always clean. Now that's my experience and it's obviously going to depend on your cat. But even the automatic cycles don't bother the cats at all, and one of them just loves watching it. And once your cats get used to it, you can monitor their usage via the app. There's also a few things you can tweak in the app, such as how long it waits between a cat using it and emptying. Now I've actually took it down from a default of 5 minutes to 4 minutes because that litter does clump really well. Now I did try the do not disturb mode as well at night just so it didn't disturb me at night, but actually I found it operates so quietly it doesn't wake me up at all. For context, it kind of sits at the bottom of my stairs and the bedroom's at the top of the stairs. Now for that automatic cleaning cycle, you can set that for anything from 1 minute to 60 minutes. Of course, initially you might even want to trigger it manually just so your cats don't get spooked. You can also switch to a cycle mode if you want to, which is where it will clean every certain amount of time. And you can set these intervals from everything from once an hour to once every 24 hours and kind of everything in between. The app also has an automatic covered mode, which I have toggled on. This basically does a little extra warm-up exercise when it's about to do a cleaning cycle. This helps make sure anything that hasn't been covered up will be covered up. And this is a really good time in this review to talk about using the app. And when you first load it, you'll see all of your Neakasa products on that screen. So for me, that is just the one M1. That screen will show you the litter status, the waste bin status, and provide you with a quick clean button. That's particularly useful if your cat has done something really stinky and you just want to get rid of it. Of course, that's also useful for kitten mode. What you can do is click through for some more information. This is where you can see the percentage of litter, you can easily run the clean, level and calibration options, and you can browse through the usage calendar. Going into the settings, you can adjust a few more things as well. That includes those cycles I talked about earlier and do not disturb modes. If you want to, you can also turn on the non-stoppable cycle, which will mean cats entering it during a safe moment in the cycle will not stop it from working. For example, if it's already finished its emptying function and it's tilted back forward, it does a kind of leveling mode at the end, and this brings the front of the tray quite close with the bottom of the device. Now at this point it's perfectly safe for it to keep operating, and actually you want it to go back into the normal position just so it's not as close to the edge for the cats to kick litter over. This setting is off by default in the app, but you can switch it on in the settings. It's also here you switch on kitten mode, which will turn off automatic cleaning. And it's also in the app where you can set some reminders for things like cleaning, emptying the waste and cat litter purchases. This is useful for kind of getting reminders of things that you might want to do regularly. And then of course there's some other things you can do like name the robot and switch on the child lock, which will disable the buttons, and update firmware and manage your cats. And generally I found the app is pretty responsive and works really well. And I actually think the interface is nice and simple to follow and use. The only thing I have noticed is that early in the morning, the calendar doesn't always update to the current day. That's easy enough to remedy because you just click the calendar and click the date that you're currently on. So that's a kind of overview of all of the features and how you control things, but let's talk about what this is like to use, because I have been using this for about 3.5 to 4 weeks. And for the most part, this litter tray is absolutely fantastic. The cats love it because they've always got a clean toilet, and I no longer have to do the job that I hate the most. It picks up which cat has used it based on their weight and allows me to easily track that they're using it regularly. And the lights on the front adjust to show you different things, such as when a cat's come out of it, the cleaning light will light up green to show it's waiting to do a cleaning cycle. And actually this whole cleaning cycle takes about 3 minutes and is pretty quiet. This means for me, where it's in my living dining room, if I'm watching TV, it doesn't disturb me when it's running its cycle. And that cycle it runs is basically a big rotation. And it does these gradual stops to help nudge all of the litter through the filter so that all it's got left is the clumps of poo or wee. It then continues that full turn and empties the waste into the storage tray underneath because that trapdoor has opened. It then waits a couple of seconds, rotates back and performs a levelling cycle. Now the big question people ask about automatic litter trays and the big issue people seem to find is all around leakage. And this is especially true if you look at some of the reviews for a lot of the cheaper machines on the market. And really this is probably the biggest potential flaw with the M1. But it is a flaw that can be fixed. So the base of the tray, as I said earlier, has a kind of silicone base. This is to help make sure things don't stick to the bottom of the tray. The problem with this is there are some small gaps where it joins the side of the litter tray. Alongside that, in my opinion, this doesn't go far enough up the sides of the device. That means if your cat is a bit of a side peer, it could easily send some liquid down there. Now of course what you don't want is wee getting onto the mechanics of this device. And if this happens, you can basically spot it during an emptying cycle because you will see a bit of a smear on the bottom of the drum. And at that point, if you've looked out for it, you can just give it a wipe and clean it up. But it is just something to look out for, especially initially. Now it's another example of where I'm pretty lucky because my cats generally pee in the right place. That means I've actually only had this issue once. It's also worth noting that Neakasa are aware of this issue and do have a fix in place. And this comes in the form of the strips that I said weren't included but are going to be included. And basically what Neakasa have done is produce some grey strips which will go around the top of that silicone. These are 3M tape, so they're going to stick really well. This is the same tape that things like smart locks use when you attach them to your door. This stuff is really strong. And these are designed to go on top of the silicone and the top of the tray to help stop that gap. And from everything I've read about these do the trick. Do. What you do need to do at the moment, however, if you haven't got them with your litter tray, is email Neakasa in order to get them. Now these ship from China, which means they are going to take 30 to 40 days in order to arrive. And at the time of recording this video, mine haven't arrived yet. Now this isn't a problem for me because I've not had any leakage issues. I've also heard that these are now being shipped with the products, so when stock gets updated in different places, they will start coming with them. If you don't have them, however, make sure you contact Neakasa and ask for them. The other thing to note is that the review I watched from One Man 5 Cats did have some issues with the trapdoor, but I have had absolutely no issues with it at all. What I do try and do is make sure I give the waste tray a good shake every few days, just to make sure everything levels out nicely in there. That's to stop it piling up at one end. Now the other space for potential leakage is where the litter tray meets the front, and this is if your cat was to pee right over the front edge. Now this isn't an issue I've had, but it is something worth noting. It's also this front where litter can quite easily be kicked out, and the cats do quite often jump out and a bit of litter comes with them. Now actually that mat has been pretty good at collecting all of that for me, and I'd say less litter gets kicked out than my old open tray. I do also have a little Switchbot K10 Plus robot vacuum which you can probably see in some of the clips. That comes out once a day and just hoovers everything anyway. And the thing with the M1 and probably every single automatic litter box out there is that your experience is going to largely depend on your cats and their behaviour. Now both of mine have took to it just like any other litter tray and I've had absolutely no issues getting them to use it. They also managed to use it without pooping or peeing over the side. This makes these guys the ideal customers for this litter tray. And it's one of those things that you're simply not going to know until you get one. What I did know is that I needed an open one because of the way one of my cats likes to pee. She just likes everyone to watch. So next we should talk about cleaning and emptying. And when the bag is full, you will get a notification in the app. But really what I'd recommend doing is just checking it anyway. And what I tend to do is just before bin day, I do check if it is full. And because it does take any drawstring bag, if it's nearly full, I'll just empty it anyway. And emptying it is super simple. You simply pull out the tray and then pull the string in order to tighten up the bag. This makes it a really, really easy job. And the rims of that tray mean you can easily tuck the bag around and make sure nothing comes loose. And then you just slide it back in. It has genuinely made my least favourite job much easier. And then for the day-to-day cleaning, I've just used a wet wipe or a bit of kitchen spray and kitchen towel. And that's because when it does empty, if you've got some kind of sticky litter, it might stick on the way down and leave some marks. Now this isn't particularly gross, but it is just worth bearing in mind. And really this highlights one of the advantages of this being an open litter tray, because you can see where it's dirty. That means you know just to give it a quick wipe. I also tend to do the same during a cleaning cycle where every so often I'll just keep an eye on it and just see if it needs a wipe on the inside. And of course those sensors will stop when it's doing that because it will detect me. Now I'm actually yet to do a deep cleaning cycle because the litter has stayed nice and clean. And I'll probably do one of these when it looks like the whole litter needs changing. But because that whole drum can be removed, this is going to be a really simple thing to do. And I'll be able to take it outside and give it a thorough wash with soap and water, or even take it in the shower if there's no clumps of litter in it. And that's where this is thought out, because that main drum has no electronic parts. So as long as you make sure it's fully dry before you attach it to the part that does have them, you can clean it as much as you like. I have, however, disassembled it, and that's really easy to do because you just lift the clips on those side things and lift it out. I have also tested out the empty cycle. This is where it can empty all of the litter into the bag below for you. Now you're going to want to make sure you use a brand new bag when you do this, just because of the capacity. And the empty cycle is something you can only trigger via the buttons and not via the app. It's also worth mentioning that the 5 buttons behave slightly differently. So the level and clean button just require a click press. The power, empty and Wi-Fi button require you to hold the button for around 3 seconds before they kick in with their action. This is obviously to stop you accidentally catching the empty button and emptying a litter tray when you didn't want to do that. But interestingly, I thought there was probably a fault with it because I couldn't get the empty button to work. It turned out I just wasn't holding it for long enough. And the empty button basically causes the drum to rotate the opposite way to it normally would, and it empties all of that litter into the tray underneath. This means it's ready to lift out and clean. And then for cleaning the main body, I just use wet wipes just to make sure you don't damage any of the electrics. And just be careful when you're working with any electric components. But all in all, what is my verdict on the Neakasa M1? And at £500, this thing is a big expense, and it's not an investment I took lightly. And as I said, this was something I purchased myself. And other than signing up to the Neakasa affiliate program, which anyone can do, and emailing them to get those stickers, which again, anyone can do, I've not had any other communication with them, and I've got no affiliation with them. What I will say is that the customer service when I was asking for those stickers was pretty quick. What I do have to say, however, is that I am really happy with my purchase. The cats have used it straight away, the app is nice and simple to use, and it seems to be pretty good at emptying itself and not making too much mess. And those physical buttons on the device mean that you could give it to an elderly relative who didn't want to use the app. I do, however, think the login feature that you do get with the app is worth having. And the really important thing is that it does effectively remove the waste from the tray once the cat has used it. This means your cats always have a clean toilet ready for them to use. And more importantly, it means I'm not having to scoop poop anymore. And as I said throughout this video, it's also really easy to disassemble and clean. And that big open design means there's not any nooks and crannies you got to try and stick your head into. You can just see it all open for you. The only 2 downsides, in my opinion, are that risk of leakage around that silicone, which of course Neakasa have fixed with that tape. For the most part, with that kind of leaking issue around the edges, I don't think it's a big issue because I think it would still avoid the electronics, but it is certainly worth getting those strips and putting them on just in case. And of course those strips are going to match the colour of the tray as well. If you do want those, you just need to email Neakasa. And as I've said a couple of times, they are going to be included in the boxes really soon. I also think there's a slight disadvantage in the way that it empties because it can leave some dusty marks on the side of the tray. But all in all, I am very happy with my purchase, and so I want to finish this video by telling you guys how to get the best price, because I've done a lot of research on this. And for UK users, in my opinion, if you're going to pick one up, the best place is Amazon UK. Now that's not going to get you the best price, but it is going to give you a lot of peace of mind. At the time of recording this video, it's currently listed for $599 on Amazon, but with a 10% off voucher and a £50 off voucher. That means it will cost you £500. Of course, for UK users, whilst this does cost more than some of the other options I'm going to talk about, you do have Amazon's 30-day kind of no quibble returns. And I think this is probably something worth actually paying a little bit more for. That same thing goes for European users, and I also know there's been some really good prices on Amazon.com recently as well. If you want to go and check it out on Amazon in whichever country you're in, there is a link below. If you're a USA user, the other place to pick up a good deal is the Neakasa website. I've got a link below to that and a 10% off voucher code for you. Then finally, if you did want one of these but you wanted to save some money, then there are some options with AliExpress. Now this isn't an official place Neakasa sell it. However, if you search for Neakasa on there, you do find quite a few from different resellers. And it's pretty obvious from the unique design and the pictures that this is the same machine. And with shipping to the UK as an example, you can find it for as little as about £240. Now you will have to pay tax when it comes to you, and it will ship from China, so it will take about a month. That means all in all you're going to pay about £300 for it, which is quite a big saving compared to Amazon. It does, however, mean you will have to wait about a month for it. If you do want to check out those options on AliExpress, I put a link to them below for you as well. Personally, for confidence and quick delivery, however, I would recommend using Amazon. If you guys got any questions, do stick them below and I'll answer those for you. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys again soon.